Did you know that post-secondary youth with disabilities have a harder time getting a job than their peers? Let's help break down the barriers by taking the Youth Leadership Initiative survey at disabilityfoundation.org/YLI. This podcast is brought to you by Reimagine Radio, the online radio station that aims to give you information on disability and music. Hello, my name's Graeme Wyman, and I'm the program coordinator with the Vancouver Adapted Music Society. Today, on a very special artist feature on Reimagine Radio, we have the new VAMS program coordinator, Bryden Veinot. Welcome, Bryden.
Thank you. That title really brings a smile to my face. It sounds so official now.
Yes, yeah. Yes. Now I think you'll have been quote unquote technically a week into your first.
Yeah.
Role.
We're definitely recording this a week after
Yeah, exactly.
We never bank these things. Yeah.
No, we never do it early. It's always in real time. So, Bryden.
Yeah, man.
Let's just start like we did at the last week's interview, but at the beginning. So, what drew you to music at a young age? And could you tell us me and our listeners about what was your first instrument?
Yeah, for sure. So music at a young age was definitely influenced by my mom. She listened to a lot of Tragically Hip. She listened to a lot of Matthew Good Band, which I'm going to bring up later on in a kind of meeting of the worlds scenario. But yeah, so like some Canadian music, really cool artists. And then as time went on, I got more into like rock and all that kind of stuff. And I really loved guitar so much before I even picked it up or knew that I would eventually one day play it. I loved like Freebird solo, man. When I was a kid, before realizing it was like the same licks just over and over and over and over. It was mind blowing to me, and I just like idolized these rock gods. So when I was 8 or 9 for Christmas, my parents got me a Nova acoustic, and I'm pretty sure that would be like the Walmart or the Canadian Tire type acoustic guitar, right? So yeah, yeah, you looked like Nova. Don't know that brand. Yeah, no one does. So
are they still around?
I don't know, man. That's far in my past. But that was like, so that was when I was living in Ottawa. Was born and raised there. And I would play, I think everyone's first one is like Smoke on the Water.
Of course.
But I play with my thumb. Like I had no idea what I was doing with that thing. So then my dad got a promotion and kind of moved his way up in the hotel industry and got offered a job in Richmond, just south of Vancouver. So we moved out here, and I had no friends and no anything, and just it was a blank slate. So I was enrolled in guitar lessons at Danielson Studios, is what it was called, with my guitar teacher, Steve Danielson, who was was a really cool guy. He was in this band in the 80s called Escape. He had hair down, half like curly hair down almost to his butt. So did the other 3 members of the band. There was like, I remember seeing they had like a cover art of, it was very Queen-esque with the 4 of them kind of standing ominously. But yeah, he was such a cool guy and really encouraged me and figured out what I thought was interesting and kind of tweaked it so that I could learn more and more every day. So then, yeah, guitar was the first one I learned. And this first lesson was so mind-opening to me, and the possibilities. And the first lesson I this was after I got a new guitar, by the way. I would never go to my first lesson with a Nova acoustic guitar.
And what was your second guitar?
It was just a Yamaha acoustic,
Yeah.
pretty standard, but yeah, it sounded great. So the first song we learned was Chasing Cars by Snow Patrol.
Right.
Okay. For those of you who don't know, it's not the hardest song on guitar, but when it's your first song you're learning, it is very hard. It is amazingly difficult. Amazingly difficult. What was that?
Oh no, were you reading tab or were you at this point still, or were you actually reading music?
No, that was definitely tab. Yeah. I mean, I was 10, 11. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and tab's its own language in of itself.
Yeah. I mean, it's perfect for guitar because you can go pretty quick with it and rip up and down the fretboard. But yeah, so Chasing Cars, it's 4 notes, but building up those calluses and the dexterity of your right and left hand linking up, I was addicted to figuring it out. So, as time goes on, you get better. And yeah, it was a really cool experience being there.
Well, and no, just touching on your point about tab again versus music, how do you make a guitar player be quiet in a rehearsal?
Is this a joke?
Yes.
How?
Put a piece of music in front of him that he's never read before.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Watch him try to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the running joke at Berkeley for sight reading.
Oh, that's awesome. All the guitarists have no idea.
Yeah, what they're doing. They can only read tabs.
That's so awesome.
So yeah. So okay, so that guitar was your first instrument. And what else have you learned since then? So
I had like keyboards here and there, so I picked up piano just through self-teaching. Once you figure out the commonalities between guitar and piano, things start to make sense. You link certain scales and shapes to the piano, and so piano was the second one, and then after that I started doing drums because there was drums at the studio that I went to for lessons right there in the room with us. So started playing drums a lot when I was there, and then bass after that. But it wasn't until recently that I really started caring for bass. You know what I mean? I mean, through producing and making songs over the years and just honing skills, I've learned how important bass is, and it's its own thing. But like you and Mark Ash have just my bass mind has been expanded. So those are kind of the 4 main ones, but I never got into the woodwinds, man, or the brass. It's one regret because they're so cool sounding.
Yeah, no, it's a different beast. I mean, again, if our listeners tuned in last week, like I've stopped playing the sax altogether. I still have my original alto that I had, but I mean, it's I don't know. I think it is
from the concert band.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, I still have. It's it's a sax I've kept with me. I'll never get rid of it.
Yeah.
And it definitely needs a tune-up. But
I can imagine.
Regardless, I think, and again, this is something probably you can attest to as well, is you get to a certain point when you're playing multiple instruments where something's got to leave, right? At some point. So it's like I can either really focus on 3 instruments that I can play versus it's time, right?
Yeah. I mean, you look at like studio sessions and session musicians and producers, it's these people know their strengths, and they haven't stretched themselves thin across a bunch of different things trying to be the best in all of them. They've figured out what's best for them. So I guess you decided sax wasn't best for you, is what you're saying.
No, I knew other sax players that were way better than me. So
that's a little.
If I ever needed to call someone in, that's the easy way to do it.
No, totally, yeah.
So, all right, we're gonna jump a little bit ahead after you've been taking lessons, and when you were 14, you began to teach music at the shop. The Daniel, I can't remember.
Danielson Studios, yeah.
Danielson, yeah. So you started teaching there.
Yeah.
what were some of the memorable experiences you had during your time, and what did, starting to teach music instead of learning give you?
Oh man, it makes you learn what you got to teach first. That's for sure. Yeah, there's a level of knowing how to do something, but then if you really know how to do it, then you can teach it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I was young. I was 14. I think that's pretty young to start
That's very
teaching
young.
an instrument, right? He really trusted me and again, like encouraged me, made me feel empowered to, run my lessons. But just memorable times where, doing kind of the more intermediate classes, group classes,
Mm-hmm.
I'd throw it out to the class, hey, who wants to come up with a jam? And we'd have a jam and we'd go around in a circle doing improv solos. And,
Right.
Over a year seeing the progression of some of these kids,
Mm-hmm.
it was so cool. And it made me think of what Steve did for me.
Right.
And yeah, that was a big takeaway. So it's nice to be back teaching. It was quite a long hiatus after that. But yeah, no, that was definitely one of the best experiences of my life, getting to do that there. I will say though, unfortunately, this is a little sadder, but Steve Danielson, my teacher, he did pass away last year after a battle with cancer. And I just wanted to say, yeah, I owe so much to him and my musical career and journey. And that's where it all started, was guitar. And he was the one that made it fun. And it's always been fun since because of that. Right. So yeah, just rest in peace, man. He was an amazing guy.
Well, the beautiful thing is too, you can help keep his legacy going on, right?
Exactly. It's a funny thing, man. I didn't think I would be in a position again where I could do stuff like that. So it's, some may call it fate. I don't know, but
it's definitely special.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. No, and I just wanted to touch on your line about improvisation. I think that was one of the things that like got me so excited about music as well, is just improvising over something. And that is an invaluable part of learning music, is to improvise over things, and especially things that you're not necessarily comfortable with.
Yeah, man, I have a good thing about that. So I wouldn't say I was popular in high school. I had friends. I don't care if people didn't like me or whatever, but outside of school, I was always, I would play a lot of video games and hockey with my friends, but the thing I did the most was make loops on my Boss RC30 loop pedal.
Okay, yeah.
And like improv solo over it for hours on end. And there's a bank of how many loops you can have. There's a 99 before you run out.
Yeah.
So I had a flash drive that, because you could plug into the back and get the USB.
Okay.
I'd have like thousands of loops by the end of high school that I would just jam over and over and over. Because that was what writing music was to me at that point. I had no idea what a DAW was, digital audio workstation. I didn't know how music was created. I didn't know any of the technical stuff. I just knew how to hit start and stop on my Boss RC30.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, no, everyone's, and the beautiful thing about music is there's no real handbook on how you learn and what you love to do with this medium.
Yeah.
And it always changes. And again, I always love musicians who say, when you feel like you've stopped learning music, you need to reevaluate how you learn music.
Totally. Yeah. Well, because every genre expands. There's new technology all the time.
Yeah.
Think of electronic music now. Some of it doesn't even have like a key.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's now mainstream.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it transcends moving into different genres as well.
Yeah.
Like I'll take two examples, say like Tame Impala and Radiohead. They like into like a alternative rock section. They've incorporated, like, look at In Rainbows, first track, 15 step, right? You got the electronic drums right then and there, where I'm going.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So I'm gonna throw you a curveball because you asked me this last week, but what are your top 3 influences?
Oh no.
I know, right?
Okay. Oh man. Well, okay. So I listen to a ton of just guitar-based music. In my my eternal quest to be the best guitarist ever, which won't happen, but so this guy.
There's still time.
Yeah, there's still time. I might pick up a saxophone here and there, though. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So there's this one guitarist named Andy Timmins. He did a lot of like session work in the 80s, hair metal. Of course, leave it to Steve to get me on the hair metal train.
Right.
But yeah, he came out with this one album. Was it Resolution? I can't remember. But man, it was just so melodic and the tone was so nice. And he was like pulling from all these different places tone wise. Like you could hear notes of like Brian May type stuff, but then you get stuff like Steve Vai, which is like more kind of out there and spacey. So he was a big one for me. Another one, definitely Tragically Hip. Right. Just the good old Canadian boys. It's the good vibes, man, and their ability just to like control emotion. And Gord's voice, so unique and so powerful emotionally. Like you can really tell where it's coming from.
Yeah, and he's given his all.
Yeah, and the stage presence. Oh my gosh, I got to see them their last 2 times there in Vancouver. Both phenomenal shows, and I got to go with my mom, which was so awesome because that's kind of how I grew up listening to them with. But he had the super flashy, like off pink suit with the matching flashy fedora and all the funny dance moves and the frantic yelling here and there. It was just so much fun. But it's also the like guitar choices are so, some of them, it's bands that kind of like Radiohead, kind of like Pink Floyd, that hit you with a chord that you're not expecting.
Right.
It's stuff like that I love.
And obviously just the intent behind it. Like they obviously spend a lot of time. It's not just like an improvised solo. It's like they've thought about that. Yeah. So clearly. For sure. And then, okay, so now to go pretty far from those two genres, I'm going to go into rap and I'll say Kendrick Lamar. Just because it's been, I could say so many rappers that I listen to daily, but he focuses so much on quality and the love for complete albums and projects. Mm-hmm. We're living in a world of singles now. Right. That is, and it's fine. That's how the system has made it with streaming, and it makes sense. Like your average song's like 230, 245 now because it's based off of how fast can someone hit replay on Spotify, right? Mm-hmm. Which is fine. But leave it to someone like Kendrick, though, to take years to produce a project and really hone in on how it sounds, and his whole team behind him, mixed by Ali, the mixing engineer, is just absolutely nasty with everything he does on his console. So yeah, man, I would say those 3 just because I got so into making beats and kind of stuff in the hip hop R&B realm. Mm-hmm. So there we go. My top 3, but do not quote me on that, please. That's tomorrow it'll be something different. Yeah, that's what it is on today. But yeah. All right. So moving on with the line of questioning. Yeah, man. The rundown. Real talk. Yeah. Real to real. Yeah. After high school, you went into the engineering program at UBC. Mm-hmm. However, after a while, you decided that traditional engineering wasn't the path for you. How did that decision come about that you wanted to make the transition into music?
Okay. There's a lot to unpack on that one. So I did really well in high school. We'll start in kind of high school. So I did really well in high school, I'll admit. I got really good grades, and my whole life I like to build things with my hands, and I was very like problem solvy, a very typical boy, like just doing things with my hands all the time. So I was always told that, that would be a great option for me. And I thought so too. I was really into engineering, and I did some research, and I was accepted to UBC after high school. But when I got there, it wasn't what I was expecting. I mean, a lot of university programs, you do have to do the whatever courses to start before you can even remotely do anything that you want to do, right? But I could sense that the life of like academia, that at that high of a level, just wasn't something that I wanted to put that much effort into. I'm a very laid back guy, as you know, pretty chill guy.
What?
And
No.
yeah, no, yeah. So yeah, no, actually when I'm at home, I'm actually quite chill, Graeme, but
I didn't know that.
But yeah, no, it was a lot for me, and it took a toll on my mental health, and it put me in a weird place and I didn't want to sit in the office, for the rest of my life, like punching numbers away. So I decided to leave, and it was a great decision, and I don't regret any of it. It's the only reason that I live in Vancouver. Otherwise, I wouldn't have moved out here from a little further east into the not that far. I mean, it's Langley, but yeah. Yeah, so all the way all the way out there, yeah. But
the 50-minute drive.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a good experience, but it was just tough, man. It was too tough, and I didn't like it enough. So I left after 2 years. I failed a few courses because I like to do things I like. So if it's something I don't like, I'm probably not going to do that good at it. Right. So I ended up working full time at Earl's in kits there for a few years, and then I'll kind of just go into the Nimbus thing.
The next question.
Yeah, so while I was at UBC, I was hanging out at my buddy's place, and his roommate had FL Studio,
right?
Cracked like the pirated version on his MacBook Pro. And I was like, and that was my first time I ever saw how music was like put together on a laptop. Like I understood what tape was, definitely not how it worked, but I knew what tape was.
Right.
So when I saw this program, everything clicked. I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. It was like, because I played so much Guitar Hero as a kid. It was like,
right?
You know how like MIDI works, and like it was just all these things were like connecting in my
clicking.
Yeah. So instantly I'm like, hey man, can you get that for me? He's like, oh yeah, for sure. And so I don't tell them, but I illegally got FL Studio as my first yeah. But and then I was hooked on just like making beats and doing it. They were really, 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 really bad at the start, but you know, you got to
start somewhere, right?
Because you don't know anything. You just, oh yeah, I'll put a kick in here and a snare there and a guitar there, and voila, we have a song. But
blast beats all the time.
Yeah, it's not. Apparently, it's not quite that easy. So, while I was at Earl's, I was really teaching myself a lot about in the box production, and it drove me to want to go to Nimbus for audio engineering and like producing and recording. So very quickly it happened. I got fed up at Earl's and I quit. And then I did nothing for a few months because I felt kind of lost and a little intimidated to go apply to school again after such a rancid experience at UBC.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I just pulled the trigger. I booked the appointment to go check out Nimbus, and in the same tour, I sat down with an admissions officer, and they interviewed me a bit, and on the spot accepted me into the program. And fantastic. I was like, oh my gosh, I was high on life that day, man. That was
Cloud nine.
It was a weird feeling. I thought there was going to be all this competition and all this, and no, yeah. So that was in mid-July, and then late August of 2019, I started at Nimbus. So then this is where it's different, okay? So it's called the Audio Engineering Program. It is not UBC engineering. Like that is, they're not remotely the same thing. Exactly. Let's just be real here. Yeah, like you can be a train engineer, you know, like engineer is a pretty loose term nowadays, I think. So the biggest difference was just the format of classes. I was coming from UBC where you'd be in a giant auditorium with 300-400 other students, and that was my thought of school. And then I go to Nimbus, and it's me and 8 other, you know, fellow music lovers and creators in a professional music studio setting with a professional recording engineer right in front of us teaching us the material. And it was, and they were cool and open and progressive and, you know, cared about your questions and wanted to help you. And so that was the biggest difference, was just the format and how you didn't feel like just another number, you know? Yeah.
No, and I mean, there's something to be said about when you, first of all, 2 things. One, at least you had the wherewithal at a young age to know what you wanted to do, or at least make that shift. And then part 2 is, you know, when you're at a place where at the end of the day, I think everyone can come together around that. And especially like when you have small classes, it's a lot more intimate. You feel like you're getting much better hands-on experience. So it's an invaluable learning, way to learn.
Yeah, man. And your classmates are going to ask questions that you might not think of, that eventually you're going to learn something from, or you'll remember back. Like there's things that I'll do now in my producing that I wouldn't do if someone hadn't asked a question in class one day, you know?
Right.
Whereas in a class of 400, you can't even hear that person ask the question. Yeah.
Right. No, of course. And then, so this also ties into like, you went through Nimbus. How, you spoke about how that differed, but how did that change your approach to when you play or create music? Having that understood knowledge on what goes into making a record.
Well, it makes you an unbelievable perfectionist and analyst of yourself and others and everything you listen to for the rest of your life. I don't think I'll ever be able to, quote unquote, enjoy an album again, if that makes sense. Like, I'll love that album, but the whole time I'll be thinking, the kick sounds like this, or the vocal is like this. I wonder, would I have done that? I don't know, but and you totally do the same thing for sure, probably. And again, everyone in our field does that. But the main shift was the collaboration, the ability to let go of your own drama and your own attachment to things. I think I'm a pretty open person and like to help other people and, you know, work with others, but I really liked my musical ideas and they're like my little babies and I don't want to part with them. So over the time at Nimbus, it really helped me like open up and realize, you know what, maybe some of my ideas aren't that good and other people's are better and I should use those when I'm working with them. So, and that was a huge one for coming to VAMS, because I mean, that's the whole job, right?
No, and that's a fair point. Like touching about my experience to relate to yours, like I felt like I guess when I first went there, and you can probably attest to this as well, like you go in with like such blinders on.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a skill to kind of let go of that. Like let your ego take a back seat.
Yeah.
And what's the best for the piece.
Yeah, man.
Right. And that's at the end of the day, all we want to do is create good music.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Another example of this would be, I mean, I thought I was, hot stuff making beats before going to Nimbus. I thought I had some pretty awesome stuff in my catalog, in my portfolio. Mm-hmm. But now if I compare it to stuff I did at Nimbus or after Nimbus, it is hot garbage, man. It's really not good. So, and I mean, someone might say it's really good, or again, music's subjective, but to me it's
our parents.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good, honey. I love it so much. Yeah. But it's again, the ego thing. It really helps you check your ego, and I mean also having perspective when you're in the studio, not as an artist, but as a producer and engineer, and you're around egos, and you realize, oh, I don't want to be like that. You know, you know what I'm saying? Like you learn what not to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you hear stories
tie
like
into
Phil
live
Spector.
Performances. Yeah. and so, okay, I've got another curveball question for you.
Yeah.
What do you love about going into, say, even if it's at home, but a studio setting? Like what's that feeling that you get when you go in there?
Okay. I have the answer for this already, because I'll say it all the time when I'm in the studio with my friends or whoever. It only exists there at that moment in time. Mm-hmm. That is the best part, man. When you're sitting in this room after X amount of hours making this song, X meaning like 10 Roman. Yeah. 10 hours making this song.
Yeah.
And you're all just sitting there and you're listening to it as if it was a song that you're listening to on the radio or on Spotify. Mm-hmm. And you're just enjoying it, and you're realizing, oh man, only we can listen to this.
Yeah.
It's just ours. And eventually, you'll release it, but it feels like you're on your own little planet. Mm-hmm. And that's my favorite thing as a pretty much a full-blown introvert. When you have that feeling of like isolation and you're with people you're close to, doing something you love, that's the coolest part. And it's like the feeling of just knowing what you got to do next. And it's like a dance, working in the studio and setting up and moving cables and how do we mic things. It's this nice fluid thing that you do that totally never has any issues at all.
No, never.
Oh yeah, we're very sarcastic, by the way.
Obviously, yeah. No, I think at the end of the day, I think you gotta be able to laugh at yourself and poke fun at yourself, because my running line is, whether it's a show, not like a lesson or something like that, but a recording, like a larger scale recording, something is always bound to go wrong.
Yeah, man.
A little something of some type of production. There's going to be some variable that you haven't thought about, because you're dealing with so much information and input.
Totally. Yeah.
And I think it takes a very special person to be able to handle the sessions like that, because you're taking so much information in, and you're on the fly and you're on the clock.
Yep.
Right. That's the other part of it as well. Right.
Yeah, man. But but also when you're the one in control making, the artists are playing, but when you're putting it together and making it sound a certain way that they like, it's like the same feeling that I was talking about teaching guitar and having the students progress and seeing that evolution. So yeah, there's too many fun things about the studio. It's the best place in the world. Even if it's your laptop and dinky monitors and a Scarlett interface, that's a studio, man. That's your thing, and you work with what you got.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Guerrilla recording, as I call it.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, that's the one.
All right. So moving on, sir, with back in January, you started with VAMS.
Yeah.
And now, starting September 1st, you have now become the program coordinator. Well, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your time with VAMS and how are you looking to see the program grow?
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, things have happened, man. They definitely not where I expected I'd be when I started. For the listeners, I started part-time as program assistant in January, on January 6th. You remembered your date, so I gotta remember mine too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
So
remember that first day.
yeah. Oh, he was so brutal to work with. Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
that ego was shining.
Yeah. I hadn't quite learned yet. Yeah. But yeah, so I was part-time for a bit, and then when some grant opportunities came through for me to go full-time as program assistant, and then that's when I really started getting hooked on like being in a nonprofit, coming from Earl's, the more corporate lifestyle. I was on salary at Earl's, so like I did have that like feeling of the corporateness of it all. So when I came here, it was like it's not really about the money. It's about the programs, and it's about what we do. The money is just something that supports it, right?
Right.
So that was, I mean, of course, like recording and doing lessons and all that has been amazing, but that has been the best thing so far. Is just this foundation in general has been so great to me so far. And like you gave me a chance at a weird time of my life, and I've been able to hopefully pull it off so far.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, so it's been amazing, and meeting clients, like Mark and Simon and JC and Danny and Jaden and Jane. I name them all, right? But and more to come, and that's what's so exciting. And disability is such a broad thing, invisible, visible, whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah. But no matter what, every client gives me, gratitude and respect, and they're so pleased to be able to participate in these programs. But it feels the other way for me. I feel so lucky to be participating in this program. So I hope I can keep that sentiment moving forward as coordinator. How do I see it growing and just in the future, man? I just hope I can, do justice to what you've, laid out for me already. Of course, we're moving into hopefully more live and in-person stuff, especially with the studio opening at whenever it's going to open. I don't want to say any dates. No dates on air, just to be safe. Yeah. You know how construction is. But yeah, I just hope that everyone that comes through the door can, have that inspiration and that spark of music. And I just hope I can be there to support anyone on wherever they are on their musical journey. And the big one is live shows. I just want to get out and do some live shows.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, no. Next year, I'm not gonna say anything yet, but we got some exciting plans for next year. Hopefully things are opened up again, and no, it's one of those sides where, unfortunately, just given the current state of where we're at right now with the pandemic, where I think every performing musician or VAMS artist who performs is itching to get back and share their music.
Yeah. I mean, we've took it to the length of, renting a martial arts facility to teach lessons out of while the studio's been renovated, because there's so much want to just be in person and, that atmosphere. Like I said, it's that you feel like you're on your own planet when you're just, in person doing your own thing musically.
So, we're on our last question now,
Yeah.
Mr. Bryden, and this is we're going to bring it back personally. So you're currently completing your first EP. Can you give us a certain kind of window when it might be released? And given everything that you've gone through since, you started playing guitar, how has this latest musical project shifted how you create?
Okay. Yeah. So timeline, I'm hoping early November. That's the plan. I think having a deadline is good because the song is never perfect, as you learn when you become a mixing engineer. There's no such thing as a perfect mix. So the deadline should be around beginning of October to get all the mixes done, and then we'll take the month to get the masters done and get a single out from it and all the like promotion and stuff. So I'll be littering everyone's social medias with cover art and little clips of songs, and so that's kind of the idea there. But how has it changed how I create? So I've always created songs kind of as one-offs, more single-based because of the world we live in. And just because I like to switch it up. I'm not one to say I don't like a genre. I think it's limiting to tell yourself that you're only good at one genre, or it's limiting to tell yourself that songs have to have a certain structure, or, right? Again, like you said earlier, there's no handbook for this stuff. You just do it and people like it or people don't. So
not going to please everyone.
Exactly, yeah. So with this project, I've really focused on trying to make a cohesive project, something that I admire in artists like Pink Floyd, like the Beatles, like Kendrick Lamar. There's these standout artists through the years that have these cohesive projects and albums that I idolize and have really influenced me. So this is my first crack at it, doing something that goes all together. And I want to make it's going to be 5 songs, short and sweet. But I want it to, you hit start on the first song and you hear the last second of the last song, and it feels like it was one long journey through space. That's a little Easter egg idea as how the vibe of the whole project. Yeah. Thanks for asking that one though, man. I feel like a real artist now, a real producer.
You heard it here first, VAMS listeners, on Reimagine Radio.
I'll be sure to remember you all when I'm so famous. Yeah. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere, VAMS.
I was going to say playing the Biltmore in Vancouver.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, Bryden, thank you for joining us today, and congratulations on the new appointment and seeing what happens moving forward.
Thanks, man. I'm really excited, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen.
Alrighty. Well, you take care. And to all our listeners out there, again, stay safe and keep that music flowing. This podcast is brought to you by Reimagine Radio, the online radio station that aims to give you information on disability and music.